Alright, hello guys, I am back. So yeah, last time I left you there, we were working on this little sculpt here, and what we're going to do today is actually start to retopologize it. So we're going to go to object mode here, and let's just unclick only render. You can take out this little widget here. You can just use that with the control space. So retopology, if you don't already know what that is, it's basically taking a higher density mesh like this here. If we go into edit mode, you can see topology is not exactly the best or anything. There's a lot. It's like all triangulated. It's not very clean topology at all. So retopology basically takes care of that. It's usually done after you sculpt something such as this. But it can be like you can retopologize anything really. So basically, there's a few different methods to retopologizing. One is if we go to edit mode here, B surfaces. If you don't have B surfaces, just go to your user preferences under add-ons. Right, then just go under here, type in just BS, and B surfaces should pop up. Just click that little checkbox. And basically, what that allows you to do is just literally draw on the mesh using the grease pencil. And I'll just demonstrate that real quick. I'm just going to add a plane to show you. This is basically what you do when you're using B surfaces. Let's just get that out of the way. And what we'll do is under grease pencil, let's go new layer on the surface. And we can just strange, it's not working. Okay, let's just hit new here. Surface. Oh, that's odd. Usually it works, but it doesn't seem to want to. Anyway, it just lets you basically draw on the surface, and it will actually create polygons for you. To me, I don't overly like that way of retopologizing, so I'm going to show you an older technique. So it's going to add a plane, and this is basically taking a plane and just putting polygons over top of it using the plane. So what we're going to do is just go to front view here, and we'll start retopologizing. Now what we first want to do is have it surface snapping. So if we go under this little button here, snap button, and right now it's set to increment. So if we grab it, it'll only move in incremental values. And that's basically, if you turn that off, if you grab it, you can move it around freely. If you hold control, that's the snapping. Turning this on, it makes it so you have to hold down control, but if you do hold down control while doing that, it'll just do the opposite. So what we want to do is actually go on the face here, type of selection, snap element, and closest usually works well. And then this is just snapping onto itself. This button here, it projects it onto the surface. We want to check that so it projects on top of that. And this one, vertices move to the same location, it'll merge those. So you can turn that on if you want. I usually don't have it on. Right, so we'll zoom in here. And this retopology stage can take quite some time. If it's a large asset that you're retopologizing, it could actually take days. Yeah, it could take a long time. So it's not exactly the most fun thing to do in modeling, but it's a key asset if you're a digital sculptor. Okay, so basically what I'm going to show you though in this tutorial is we're going to make just the main edge loops, and then as a learning experience I'll let you retopologize the rest based off of what you learned from this video or other videos, hopefully. It's good to learn from multiple sources. I learned from uh, Blender Cookie, Blender Guru, um, Blender Nerd, YouTube videos, my own experience, of course, as well. You can even learn from not only from Blender, but if you look up tutorials on just like random other software, like Lightwave tutorial or something, you can learn different techniques, which is really, really helpful. So instead of just learning techniques for, say, just this is how you do it in Blender or whatever, it's helpful to look at other software packages, because other people have different techniques that they use, other modelers. So sometimes you'll find something that you think looks awesome, like just I don't know, some kind of technique you can think of. Um, People use it in another software, and you can find a way to actually develop a way to use that in Blender. Like for example, I know Lightwave actually has a solidify tool. I don't know if they actually had that before or after Blender had theirs, which is just in the modifier panel here somewhere. Solidify. So maybe the developers of Lightwave, their new tech, maybe they saw that in Blender and thought they should add that into their software. Alright, so right here we have the main eye loop. Just space some of these points out a bit. And once again, this is just a quick demonstration I'm giving you guys. I'm not giving you a very in-depth tutorial. I find that shorter tutorials are a lot better because they don't take up as much time. So what we're going to do now is just add a mirror modifier here. And it's kind of strange there. Not quite sure why it's doing that. But anyway, let's just keep going on. So basically we want loops around certain portions of the face. The eyes need loops, of course. And the mouth. We need one around the nose. And since this is more of a character with a snout, the snout makes it a little bit more difficult to model it, retopologize, because usually it's just circular. But this, see if your grease pencil works. Nope, doesn't work yet. Yeah, so usually it'll go just around like this, like around here. If grease pencil is working, I could actually show you a bit simpler, but it doesn't want to activate. So what we're going to do is just control click, and that places a vertex there. And it should have put one on either side, hopefully. So we'll just extrude this. We'll just get the basic shape of the mouth. And this is actually a place where I would have used B surfaces. This is actually a really handy place to have B surfaces activated. Basically, it would allow you to just draw lines, and then you just create cross sections, and it would create the polygons for you. It works pretty well from what I've seen and from my own experience. So this is just the lip form here. I'll make sure we're staying on top of the surface. Yeah, how far does this have to go? Quite a way, I guess. Clipping, right when I add clipping on there. Clipping will allow it to merge the vertices after a certain point. Alright, so right there is the edge of it, so to subdivide it, grab this little guy here, bring him up. Strange that the mirror modifier's out of whack there. I'm just going to quickly check a few settings here, see if it will change. Strange. Anyway, we'll just ignore that. As long as it's on at least one side, it should be fine. And I don't think the mirror object will have anything to do. Oh, there we go. Now it's working well better. Alright, so just under mirror object here, just click this head high poly, which is what I named the high poly version of the head sculpt. We can even name this here just head low poly. So then we have a difference between the two. Alright, so we have a basic loop here right now. And we also have a little mistake right here. So we'll just, obviously just moving around vertices, you know, tweaking constantly. Alright, so we got that basic loop there. And we also want one around the nostrils, of course. Anything that's really circular, you know, you want loops around. Basically, my method is I create the loops, and then I connect the loops. And I never stay on one part of the head at a time. That's actually a technique that I've heard from Jonathan Williamson. Basically, you know, if you just work on, like, say, just the top part of the head, it'll get very tedious. You'll get a little bit bored, and eventually you'll just like want to give up. Whereas if you're constantly moving around the head, you know, you're actually working on different parts, different topology and whatnot. So it's much more interesting. Gives you something to do while you're actually retopologizing something more interesting. Just make a face there. Let's see, undo that. Vertices aren't close enough for it to stay on top of the surface. Right, so what we'll do now is extrude this and then hit S to scale. Okay, that's not going to work. It usually works, but I'm going to do this the long way. Alright, so what we're going to do is just extrude these out and just make faces. Try not to stretch the polygons too much. So yeah, this is sort of a tedious process. And really, all you gotta do is just keep practicing at it, and you'll get pretty good at it. I can guarantee. I used to be horrible at doing this kind of stuff, but I've been getting a little more and more decent. I've been practicing a lot on making random head sculpts, and it's really helped to retopologize them, because that's really how you learn topology flow, is by modeling. It's not exactly something you can learn from a book, because every model's topology is different. There are a few ground rules you have to follow, such as the rule of 3, if you ever heard of that, which is basically any joints or anything like arms, elbows, you know, stuff like that. That's pretty much has to have 3 rings around it for it to deform nicely. Well, 3 minimum. It can have more than 3, but usually it's a minimum of 3. Right, so we got the smile line there. And you can see I actually just created a little bit of a line right there to make a smooth flow there, instead of extruding this here polygon down. Alright, let's work on this right here. Like I said, constantly move around your mesh. Don't just get caught up working on one point. That can sometimes be more of a hindrance than an advantage. Sometimes it can be an advantage, but it's good to keep moving around and working on all aspects of the model. Alright, so right here we're probably going to have a bit of trouble connecting this to this. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add an edge loop right here. And as you can see, it just flows pretty nicely, I'd have to say. Alright, so right here we're actually getting a pull, so I'm just going to undo that. Extrude it down. So yeah, this is the part of the retopology where you actually have to think about how this is going to all flow. So let's make a face here. Subdivide it. And quad there and there. It might look a little bit funky, but once again, I'm still in the learning phases of topology. Like, you never stop learning really about how topology flows. It all depends on what you want your model to do. Like this particular model, I don't plan on animating it. If you plan on animating yours, you might put a lot more thought into how your model's topology will flow. But this topology right here is actually quite decent. It should flow quite nicely. Alright, wireframe mode here for a second. I'm just going to show you a really quick tip right now. What we're going to do is actually select the high poly model in object mode, hit Control H. You can see here it says set restrict render. So now when we go back to this here, if we want to go to wireframe mode, you can barely see our wireframe. But if we go only render, you can actually see just the one mesh. And that's because the other one is now in a restricted render view. So it won't render, and when you hit only render, it will only render, literally whatever is set to render. So I'm going to quickly save this, but I'm going to save it in a new type of file. So Control Shift S, and then hitting plus, it saves it as just increments it there. And all I did was really just go to head sculpt 1 is what I called it. In the head sculpt folder, you can see tutorials, head sculpt tutorial, the models folder, and then I just had a head sculpt 1 as in version 1. Then here's the version 2, which will be the retopologize mesh. So it's good to have naming conventions. I actually read from a book once, I think it's called Digital Modeling by William C. Vaughan. I think that's his name. It's a pretty good book about digital modeling, about a while back. And he actually has a part in the book where he explains your file hierarchy, how you should have a very good file hierarchy, because when you're in the actual CG business, you need proper file structure, or else no one will be able to find your file really. They don't know what to use. So increments, those are good. Proper naming conventions and whatnot. All good things to have. Let's see, snap these to the surface by grabbing them. Alright, you can use a matte cap as well if you're working on this, if you want to. Like, say you wanted your character to be gold, you can kind of see it would look like in gold. Or if you just want to like see a different color other than this. Move some of these around. Alright, so we're just going to finish off this nostril here. What I'm going to do is actually just extrude basically everything inwards. I'm just going to put a point in there. And this is something, I don't know if this is everyone does this or if it's just me, but I'll put a polygon structure like this in the center of it because I know this is how I want it to kind of close off. And then I'll kind of make the rest of the model go towards that instead of it just being a big old mess and then trying to fix it later. I'll have a polygon structure ready to go, and then all I gotta do is connect it. And then I can add edge loops later as well to smooth it out and whatnot. So yeah, once again, this is a very tedious process. Right, you can see that we have a pole right here, but this is actually an alright thing because of where it is. It won't really interfere with much, if anything. So it's good to keep in mind that poles, sometimes they can be handy, you know. Like in this case, how we have the model. It won't interfere with anything. A lot of times people will tell you, don't use poles, don't use triangles at all. Those people don't know what they're talking about, honestly. Because a lot of the times, professional modelers will actually use poles and triangles in their mesh. And that's actually on purpose. If you know how to actually use them effectively, then it's an alright thing. If you're just starting out, you should try to avoid those. But once you're experienced, you can actually use them, and you should be able to make them work in your project. I think I messed up there. Nope, 2 vertices selected. Okay. Sometimes I click way too many times. I think I selected too many vertices. It'll create a funky looking face. So I just look up top right here. It tells you how many vertices you have selected. It's kind of handy. Alright, topology is looking good so far. Let's see, what we'll do is we'll take this down. Subdivide that. Make a face. Alright, so I think I made a mistake there. Let me just undo a bunch of that. This here, this kind of goes weird. Let me just delete this. Okay. My mistake. Alright, so we're going to find a workaround with that. So what I'm going to do is just alright, so this is a bit of a mistake there. So what we're going to do is think here for a minute. Let's go only render. So put edge loop there. Yeah, right here it will connect to 3 different points, and we don't want that. So, oh wait, I think I see something. Subdivide this. Yeah, 2 points there, 2 points there. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. Might look a little funky, but it's a workaround. Space there, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then once again, triangles, they always pop up. So in this case, it's all right to have a triangle there. It won't hinder us much, if at all. And we do have a pole here, but that's all right. If you look here, looks good. Just smooth it out. You can see we do have a crease face there. So select all and Control N. Recalculate the normals, and it's looking good. All right. Do now is uncheck that. Bridge where the eyes are, right here. Actually, better yet, we're going to do on the top of the head. Show you a little technique. Select clipping again. What we're going to do is just select everything and make sure it's all one piece. Yep. Okay. Extrude that back. Now what we're going to do is select it all and just move it back a little bit. And then move it down. I think we have some doubles there. Yes, we did. Now they're removed. Very handy little tool to remove doubles. What we're going to do is just extrude all this back. And when it comes to the back of the head, you really don't see it much in animation and whatnot, or render, unless for some reason you're actually modeling the back of the head. So that's where we don't use as much geometry, mainly because we don't need it there. It would just slow down the render, slow down. It just makes it denser. We don't really need it, so we just have a bunch of polygons here. And this is smaller. It's more local, as you can see. In the nose, it's a smaller area, so it's a little bit denser. But in the head here, you have big old polygons, and they're good for what they're doing there. Right, and then we also want a loop around the ear here, or antenna, whatever you want to call it. I'm not quite sure why I pulled those out of his head. Those are usually the worst. Retopologize for some reason. If you don't know what I'm talking about there, why I pulled it out of his head, my previous video showed me basically sculpting this. I don't know, I guess you could call it an alien head, creature head. So you can see some of this is actually snapping right where we want it to, but other polygons here are not, so let's just snap them where we need them. Make sure they're evenly distributed across the mesh as well as we can, of course. We can't get 100% accurate unless you actually went and then coded the parameters, but that's tedious. That's a little strange. Let's just delete those. We can just pull these up a bit. Maybe we should keep only render off. I don't know. It seems to kind of mess up when we're doing this. Edge loop here. So yeah, and basically you just keep doing that all the way across the ear. And once again, if you'd like to, you can add a little cap like we did with the nose there to kind of work towards that. So I'll be leaving that for you to finish as a sort of an assignment, you could say. See how well you can do at that. Best of luck with it. And so what we'll do now is go down here again. Once again, just moving all over the mesh to work all of it. And I don't think I'm going to be recording too much longer, because basically, you know, I covered enough to actually get you going as a beginner in retopology. Alright, so what we're going to do here is add just a little bit of extra density here to make sure we have that nice form up front. Just add 2 edge loops though. We don't want it too dense. This just helps so it doesn't stretch up the polygons way too much where it's just horrible looking. We want it to be nice and form. Nice, it has where it has a nice form. Sorry. So one thing you want to do with the eyes is make sure you have a nice loop going around it. Like, oh, once again, that rule of 3, about 3 loops around it. So we have 1, 2. It just cuts off there because we have these polygons here. And the third row would be kind of right there. As you can see, we have a pole which kind of redirects it. But we can also just extrude this inward. E and then S to scale. And as you can see, it kind of goes around the eye, so we just hide that. Select this and hit scale. It'll actually scale across that, the actual high poly mesh. You extrude again and then scale it. It'll actually keep scaling along that. And you can just cap it off at the end. Extrude, scale. Just want to uncheck this here. Alright, that's a little better. So yeah, just making loops around the eyes here. Simple little stuff. Alright, so now we just gotta bridge these two here, but they're quite a ways away. So we just gotta move some of these vertices, and they'll usually work. As you can see, it worked quite well. And then just, bridge these two here. Bridge it down, an edge loop. Right, then we can see, so we can see by making a face there, and then just add an edge, we can see how many times we gotta extrude these down in order to get our desired effect, or sorry, of desired topology. So we scroll out and look back. We can see it looks pretty good. It kind of looks weird because all this stuff in the back, but the front of it there looks nice. And before I leave you now, we'll quickly just do a little bit around the neck here. And what we're going to do is there's actually I believe it's called clavicle, something like that there. And basically it comes down like, let's quickly extrude that, like this. I just did that by holding down control and clicking. So it kind of comes down like that. You can see I kind of tried sculpting it there. It usually turns out better than that. In the next video I'll have a slideshow ready to go to show you what I mean by that kind of stuff. So yeah, this kind of just goes up like the muscle that I'm talking about there. Kind of goes up like this, or close to the jaw. And that kind of just helps when the jaw is deforming. One thing I do kind of say you should do is go onto Google and kind of look up images of retopology or just head topology and kind of look at that to see when you're doing this on your own as a side project, a little homework, to kind of guide how the loop should go. I usually hear that's like a pretty good way to go if you're a beginner, because it kind of shows alright, this, you can see here, this part of the face deforms a lot, you need loops here, or something like that. It can be quite handy when you're just beginning. I don't know, some professionals don't even do that. Not that you necessarily are a beginner, but I do know some of you are. I have talked to a few of you through YouTube messaging services. Alright, so just kind of like keep going up with this. You can see it's actually snapping to it too, which is good. You might want to also rotate quite often to make sure that's actually snapping. If you turn this off, you kind of see you got the form there. Alright, the rest of this, rest of the head's pretty much the same. You just have to find out, where you want to connect the actual edge loops and whatnot. Now we can continue off of this. Yeah, so I think that more or less takes care of what you should do in terms of retopology. I don't want to take this video too much more in depth, because really that's all you need to know about retopology. The rest of it I want to leave to you guys on whatever you're retopologizing. Learn from this. I find it better if I just leave it here and let you guys learn from it, because if I show you the whole thing, you're more so copying than learning. So this is actually might be beneficial for you. So I'll finish retopologize this, and when that is finished, I will get the next video up and ready to go. The next video will be about UV unwrapping and adding textures, and yeah, that's going to be quite awesome. Can't wait to show you guys that. And until then, good luck with the retopology, and thanks for watching.